Before we do move on, I'm sorry, before we do move on, you sent me an email saying, and so I can make this clear for the council, G and H were supposed to be one item, and we're supposed to choose between the two, correct?
Well, the G and H are both the same, except that in one of them, the wherefore clause states Second Amendment sanctuary town. The other one just states we support the Second Amendment. So I thought the different communities are using a different language.
Well, let's move the audience and we get into the ordinances themselves. But I want to just clarify that the two should have been together and we decide on one. I thought that's what it was. So
no,
there's options.
Yeah, I gave them two,
yeah.
So you could vote one down and one up if you want or whatever.
Mary, can you read the first one?
Second Amendment preservation. Do you ever read the whole thing or just?
No, just Second Amendment preservation.
You moved?
We'll go with the reading.
Move to waive the reading. Second.
Moving second to waive the reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. I need somebody to move the ordinance.
Move the resolution. Second.
Moving second. Al?
I would suggest do the same for the next one.
When we get there.
Put them both on so you can discuss both at once. G and H.
I don't think
You can't do that.
can't.
I'm not sure which is G, but one of them says, now therefore be resolved by the West Warwick Town Council that the town of West Warwick is hereby declared to be a Second Amendment sanctuary city. Then it goes on to say that you're going to support the Second Amendment. I'm not sure which one you have in front of you.
G says that.
Yeah.
G says that.
He says that second page, the bottom.
Problem is, before you vote on that, I think you should know what the other one says. In my presentation, the other one says that be it resolved, the West Warwick Town Council hereby declares its support for the Second Amendment in opposition to infringement to bear arms. Basically, some of the communities are declaring themselves Second Amendment sanctuary towns and cities. Some of the communities are not. They're just saying we support the Second Amendment. That's the difference in the two. Everything else is identical. The whereas clauses are identical. I sent the council the cases that they've cited.
So as an attorney, can you explain the difference? Like a quick explanation of if we're a sanctuary, if we're in support of the Second Amendment.
I don't think that's really.
And then we're in support of the Second Amendment and being a sanctuary
It's
city.
no legal, it's just...
There's nothing, your resolution, whether you pick G or H, is basically a codified opinion of the town council. It's not law, it has no effect on any prospective law or any law right now, or the constitution of the state, or the constitution of the federal government.
State's still in charge of the laws, the town has no.
It doesn't change anything.
So,
Basically, the whole purpose of it, and these gentlemen and ladies would say, is that they're requesting the towns go on record letting the state legislature know that you don't want the infringement on the Second Amendment that the state legislature, now this is their opinion, not mine, I'm just reporting it, that you're going on record saying, hey, state legislature, we got some concerns, we don't want you infringing on the Second Amendment. And that's what both of these say. One of them says, we're a sanctuary city, and the other one says, we don't want an infringement on the Second Amendment. That's strictly language.
is the rest of the, hold on, is the rest of the session
Stop.
Everything else is identical.
Mary Beth, any question?
Well, I think we said that G was the one that said sanctuary city, and I would disagree with that based on what I'm looking at. I think it's H that says sanctuary city.
It's a sanctuary town.
No, but it's not G, it's H.
Right. G is just in support
That's right.
of the amendment.
Of the Second Amendment,
Well,
H would actually,
sanctuary
yes. So I just want to make sure.
Mine are G and H are the hard copies.
So,
I don't have them, so I don't know.
All right, any other comment from the council? I'm sure there'll be plenty of comments from the audience.
well, I mean, I quite honestly, and I know we had this group, I think on June 4th, and I think they did a terrific job. I have been invited to to go to the range, which I will do. As I said, I will wear my Kevlar vest just in case. I feel I need more information. I think they did a great job. I think you all did, and I was impressed with the presentation, but I've also received a lot of email and correspondence from people who want to tell the other side, and I'm not sure that I'm prepared tonight to make a vote on anything, but I certainly do want to have more information, and I want people to feel like they're heard, so that's all I would say.
I would agree. I feel like I obviously support the Second Amendment. I've fired guns my entire life. I think that we have the right to bear arms. But I am concerned that I might not be voting appropriately given the little that I actually know or maybe understand. I feel ignorant on this subject when it comes to creating a sanctuary city. I just feel like, you know, I feel like I want more information on it.
So I did a little more homework. I invited, for the record, Senator Satchel, Representative Serpra, Representative Noreg, and Representative Jackson to be here. Some did share their opinions with me. The majority are in support of the Second Amendment. I've also reached out to the police chief if he wants to share his opinion. He can come on up to the mic if he'd like. The only one, and I apologize, I have not reached out to the superintendent of schools, but in all honesty, I'm feeling a little different than you because I know I reached out to everybody and I got their opinions. I know some people shared with me that this could upset the state or whatever. I made sure, some have shared with me with the leadership that's up there right now, they don't feel there'll be many changes, if any changes, to the Second Amendment with the two leaders that are up there in Senate and House. So, you know, I've done a little more homework on this. But I do have, and I've had constituents of mine and all of ours send us emails, and I think some are here tonight, and I'd be more than happy to hear from them.
My big issue at first was originally I was hoping we weren't putting something in that was going to make our police officers do something contrary to the state law. But from talking to you, Council President Goslin, that's not the case. If we were
that was my biggest concern also, and I think I've had private conversations with individuals that, you know, if it's going to change and disable our police department and whatever it may be, then it's not fair. You can't change it. We as a town can't change state law.
Yeah.
And state law always supersedes town law.
So it's important for people to realize no matter what we decide here, it's really just us making like a formal opinion. It's not going to change anything. I mean, it would be, if we support or don't support, we'd be making a statement, but it would be no more than that. Nothing we do tonight for this resolution would be legally binding whatsoever, either way. It would be, of course, yeah, it would be sending a message, but just to be clear for everybody, nothing we decide on this it won't change any laws, it has no legal binding power, whatever we decide on tonight, one way or the other. So.
I have one person standing up who would like to speak. Mr. Lombardi, you can go up to the microphone.
And actually, I still live in shooting. My son has been going down to, Dave might be able to tell me what range it is, up on Sandy Lane. He's been going there for kids class the last month and a half. He's been taking it every Saturday.
Sandy Lane?
Yeah, off Sandy Lane and Warwick. I don't know when you guys put it.
Good. Okay, I don't want to go through everything that we spoke about last time. We'll beat that horse to death. But yeah, there were some questions that came up, especially the section about the police officers not enforcing the law. We stated that night at the meeting that we no way want the police officers to not enforce any law. When a state law goes into effect, it's law. The police have to do what they have to do to enforce that law, correct? Correct. Okay? We're not asking for that. Okay? We want the police to do their job. We support the police 100%. Everybody in here would back any police officer that's on the street having a scuffle with someone if they needed help. Every one of us would jump in and help. Okay? We just want to send a message to the State House to say, knock off the crap going after the Second Amendment guys. The Second Amendment guys are not the guys out there causing the problems. The problems are, like we said last time, the bad guys that are out there with multiple infractions that are buying guns illegally and everything else. We passed all our background checks. Every time we go buy a firearm, we fill out that paper. Mark, you guys must get calls from the in-town gun stores when people want to purchase a gun, right? And you have to clear those guys before they get purchased, right? There's a waiting period. Everything. I mean, we do what we have to do. I mean, I've had background checks for everything I've done in this town, whether it's coaching soccer, baseball, or whatever. no problem going to the Attorney General's office to get a background check if I have to buy a firearm. That doesn't bother me at all. I got a squeaky clean record. And most of the people in here have a clean record, or else they wouldn't be here. The problem is, there's groups that come and they try to infringe on the Second Amendment. Now, the way we feel, if you don't like guns, don't buy a gun. It's not a problem. If you want to learn about guns, contact any one of us. We'd be more than happy. I'm an instructor, and there's probably a dozen instructors in here right now. We got the owner of one range right here who has classes at his range, Midstate up in Coventry, Kyle. He has classes, he has instructors up there. He'll work with anybody to teach him the proper handling of a firearm. You know, we're not after this town to become lawless, everybody running around with a gun on their side, up and down on it. You know, no, that's not what we want. We just want to send a message to the State House, knock the crap off. You know, go after the real problem in the town. You know, that's basically it.
Thank you.
Any other questions or anything you have?
State your name and address, please.
Hello, my name is Eric LeBron. I live at 2410 North Street, West Warwick. I'd like to...
Don't wait down, they can't hear you.
Okay, Eric LeBron, 2410 North Street, West Warwick.
Could you hit the button? Oh.
Is it on now? There we go. Yes. I'm new at this. My name is Eric LeBron. I live at 2410 North Street, West Warwick. I did provide a copy of the comments that I'm going to read tonight. Before I do that, though, you have the difference in language between G and H. I would like to comment on that and say that sanctuary is generally something provided to a person and not a thing. I think it's rather insulting to say you're going to provide sanctuary to a thing. What I'd like to do now is respond to some of the reasons that I've heard for adopting this resolution. The first being that new and proposed state gun laws are unconstitutional. In 2008, the District of Columbia versus Heller affirmed, and this is mentioned in the proposal that the resolution that you proposed. But beyond what is in the proposal, written in the resolution, this states that the right to bear arms was not a right to keep and carry any weapon whatsoever, in any manner whatsoever, and for whatever purpose. Since then, 6 U.S. courts of appeals have rejected Second Amendment protection for assault weapons, using D.C. versus Heller as precedent. Laws passed at the state level undergo careful vetting and many revisions to ensure that they are constitutionally sound. Second reason I've heard for passing the resolution is that we don't need more laws, we need to enforce the laws that we already have, that safe, law-abiding gun owners are not the problem and are being victimized by gun laws. We had the federal assault weapons ban from 1994 to 2004. There was a 37% decrease in gun incidents and a 42% decrease in gun-related deaths. When the ban expired from 2004 to 2014, there was a 183% increase in gun-related incidents and 239% increase in gun-related deaths. New laws that have been passed in Connecticut since Sandy Hook have resulted in the fastest drop in violent crime in any state over the last 4 years. Yes, we do need enforcement of these existing laws, but new laws do make a difference. Third reason I have heard is that state leaders are not supposed to tell us what to do, and they're supposed to represent us. That passing the resolution is to represent the people and to send a message to the State House. In 2016, the Rhode Island statewide poll on gun violence showed that 83% of Rhode Islanders were in favor of restricting guns on all elementary, secondary, and school grounds, except by police, retired police, and resource officers. 75% of Rhode Islanders are in favor of banning high-capacity magazines with more than 10 rounds. Many Rhode Island residents, and including West Warwick residents like myself, are lobbying at the state level for the laws being proposed and passed. This resolution does not represent me or my voice as one of your constituents. Fourth reason I've heard is that the gun laws being proposed will result in a financial burden due to the unfunded mandate. The assault weapon ban, the high-capacity magazine ban, and the Safe Schools Act that were proposed by the Attorney General and the Governor would not have had the power to confiscate guns from law-abiding citizens. The red flag law that passed last year allows for the confiscation of weapons for a person that has been deemed a danger to themselves or someone else. This is confiscation on an individual basis. Financial burden is a dramatic reason for the resolution and an overreach. Finally, municipalities do not have the authority to regulate firearms due to preemption laws. Police must enforce the laws that have been enacted. Gun law debate belongs at the state legislature and not at a town council meeting. Ending gun violence will require people on both sides of the issue to agree to compromise. This resolution increases the divide between us. I am not opposed to the Second Amendment. Many members of my family hunt. Both of my sons have grown up in scouting and Troop 1 Arctic. They both know how to shoot. The Second Amendment and gun ownership can coexist with common sense gun laws. I'm asking you to please vote no on this divisive resolution that the town, and demonstrate that the town of West Warwick respects the law. Thank you.
Any other comment? I just don't want this to turn into a debate.
No, it's just, she made some valid points for her side, and I appreciate her opinion. The only thing I see is, like, everybody says on the opposite side, there's not going to be guns confiscation and stuff like that. We've got, what, 19 people now running for president? And out of those 19 people, I think there's already 6 that have already declared that if they become president, they're going to have a massive gun confiscation. So, I mean, you know, they're coming out and saying it as they're running for office, you know, and then they're going to take an oath when they get in that office to support the Constitution and all its amendments.
None of that will have anything to do with today's resolution, no.
So, yeah, it doesn't affect this resolution, but that's, you know, the mindset out there on the other side is confiscate, 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 you know, and it's not going to change. The only way we're going to do it is to send a message, knock this stuff off, you know. Some of the numbers that were presented, I think are a little skewed one way, that, you know, and the other thing is everybody's blaming assault weapons. There's no assault weapon. Like I said last time, AR-15 stands for Armor Light Rifle. That's the company that makes the rifle, not assault rifle. Okay? Anything in this room could become an assault weapon. Chair, microphone, water bottle, if you decided to use it. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Mann, I'm on John Street in West Warwick. I've been in this town for almost 20 years, and I've been, or at least trying to be active in the town, in the community. The neighborhood watch and some other stuff that I do. And my kid doesn't stand up. There we go. So as for the 2 resolutions, it really doesn't matter to me which one it is, because it's just a wording thing, a preference on our part. If we don't want to be a sanctuary town, we don't want to be a sanctuary town, we preserve the Second Amendment, and I'm perfectly okay with that. And as for the Heller decision, they actually also said that firearms in common use are lawful. And assault rifles are in, or what people call assault rifles, the AR style rifles, are in common use and one of the most popular rifles. So that, according to Heller, is a lawful firearm. And those are the ones that are trying to be banned at multiple levels. So if that did get passed, it would probably end up at the Supreme Court as a constitutional question. But what I really want to speak to is the budget, again, because we know that's been a hot topic the last couple of months. And part of this is basically saying that if the state passes these laws, we're going to have to come up with money somehow to enforce them. I don't know how our gun locker at the police department looks, but if we end up having to confiscate firearms from people, do we have enough space? Do we need to build a new facility to house these things? Do we need to hire another person to do all the paperwork that's required by these laws? And it comes down to, do we have the money to spend after we just went through all the stuff we went through with the budget, trying to find money and not overspend? So that's where my argument is going to come in on this, is we don't have the money, and by signing this resolution, all we're doing is telling the state that we don't want to have to enforce unfunded mandates. We don't like these laws that we're trying to pass. especially because they're not providing us any funding to enforce the laws. As much as the police are required to, they're also required to house them, they're required to file 3 copies of paperwork to 3 different departments, I believe to the Attorney General's, to the town on file, and there's one other location, I don't remember off the top of my head. But there's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of storage involved. If we have to hang on to these things for 10 years, 15 years, or permanently, or however long, until we can do whatever we need to with them. So I say I would like to recommend you guys vote for this resolution, for whichever version of it you prefer. But I also want to make sure that our budget doesn't get overrun with unexpected expenses. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment? Yes, come on. Just state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Rhiannon Moore. I live at 4 Jones Street, West Warwick, near the high school. I just wanted to vocalize my own opinion to the council as a West Warwick resident, that the right to bear arms shall not be infringed means something to me and my family, who's a military family. I personally don't see a reason to own a gun in my house. I have kids, and anything you hide, it's a challenge to find. So for me, it doesn't mean much. But my beliefs will always be that that doesn't mean that everybody else can't have them if they choose to. So I ask of you as the council to please vote to allow us to be a sanctuary city, not to change laws or to go against the police, just to show the state that we do actually care. The Second Amendment, the Constitution, all of it means something. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. I will state for the record, I do not own a gun, never owned a gun, have not fired a gun since about 11 years old, so.
Talk to me, we'll go shoot it.
It's not a desire of mine, hunting's not a desire of mine, but again, I know people have their own desires, and I do support the Second Amendment, now you don't own guns.
I just had a question, and I apologize. Were there laws passed during the legislature this year that impacted the Second Amendment?
No.
Not this
Only
year.
because of us.
Yeah,
Well,
Because of us.
showed up by thousands
Us
strong.
right here.
Introduced.
Another 5,000.
did they even get in the law? I don't know the answer to that. I
No.
didn't.
One did.
One did? And how did that vote go?
It passed the Senate, but failed the House. It wasn't brought up.
I don't think it was ever brought back up.
Yeah, I was told that.
There's too many of them to even keep track of.
We're only 25 a year, they keep coming back up.
Just want to elaborate, the gun laws, short amendment were passed, whatever.
State your name for the record.
Dan Bedandi, formerly of 74 Cleveland, and I live right over the border in Cranston now. What happens is, every year, I mean, 7 years ago after, the tragedy at St. Hook, started off with a couple of gun bills. Next year was several gun bills. It's doubling every year. I mean, this year, I can't count how many bills that are presented on a state level, and every one of them, was insane. Stripping your gun rights, and nothing in any of these bills, the dozens of bills, targets criminals. It says, Dan Bedandi, you can't, if this passes, you have to turn your AR-15 in, my semi-automatic, my high-capacity magazines. I've owned guns since I was 18 years old. I'm 45 years old. Never committed a crime. I had a pistol permit and everything else. I was an armed guard and everything else. But every year, because everybody says, well, the bill's been passed, there's no threat. Every year, and if you could look back, you could go to the State House's website. Every year, it just magnifies, double these anti-gun bills, and that's why we're here for. That's why we're here for, to say, because we spend countless hours at the State House. You would not believe it. We get there about 10, 11 in the morning sometime. And last time I testified, it was about literally 1:30 in the morning. I was there for over 12 hours before I got to testify before the Senate. And every year it just gets worse. Next year, we're going to have to put 10 cents at the State House. That's the way it's going. And we just want our towns to say, hey, listen, it's we're not violating the laws. We're not trying to change nothing. We just want our towns to say, hey, listen, we represent the people enough. That's all. And again, if you support the Second Amendment or whatever, you have a right to own a gun, and you surely do. You do have a right not to own a gun. We're not here to debate that. We're not here to say, hey, we want the police to violate the law. No.
The law of the land is the Constitution. It's far supreme above any city, state, or federal laws. And that's all we're asking for is for you, when you took your oath and everything, to support that. That's all. And but thank you for your time.
No, it's just my point being that there are many laws that even if we were to pass this, my guess is you're still going to have a tent next year at the State House. This is going to change that, I would think.
Well, hopefully, yeah.
And we hear, I personally have heard from both sides, and I'm sitting here wondering, and I understand we've been elected to represent you, but is this a question that we should be answering, or is it a question that's on a ballot at some point in time that the people answer? And that's just something I'm throwing out there. Because there clearly are two sides that we do here.
Oh, and it's all about one thing. I mean, I'm a parent, I'm sure these ladies are parents too, and all of us, everyone in this room could all agree, no matter which side you are, that we care about the safety of our children.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And that's what it's about. That's why the founding fathers wrote the Second Amendment. It's not only to protect them, for duck hunting and everything else, to protect ourselves, our property, our family, and everything else. God forbid, as a gun owner, I can speak for any one of these guys here, we would never in the world, ever, want to turn our firearms on another human being. Never. I dread that day to ever come. You know what I mean? But, unfortunately, we have evil people in this world, and we have the right, we're the only nation now, basically, that has this right. You know what I mean? And if you look at all through history, every dictator took the guns away first. They led to mass genocide, major losses of civil liberties. We don't want that in this country. And I know because your mindset is like we're just town councilmen, really we can't do anything. Well, you know what? You're part of the system. You're part of this great government. Even though it's a small town level, but you still are part of that. You're part of this history. You know what I mean? And we respect you all. We ask you to respect the Constitution and just say, hey, listen to the state. We're going to stand by the Second Amendment. It's not a political issue, not a Republican, Democratic issue. It's a constitutional issue. For we the people. I'm independent, so anyway. So that's all we ask you guys.
I know I personally do support the Second
Amendment.
Thank you. There's no doubt about that. It's just a question as to what the constituents in the town, and it's divided. You can see that. And what is our place to pass an ordinance or not pass an ordinance? And that's just the question that I have.
Okay. All right, thank you.
But absolutely, I do support the Second Amendment. I wholeheartedly.
Awesome, thank you, because I got family who fought in the Revolution, so.
Going back to Mr. Biandi's comment, I know I have a counterpart that actually lives in Connecticut at work, and he's an avid gun collector. Since a lot of laws have changed, he's had to pack up his guns and send them to Texas to his daughter's house because of certain guns he's not allowed to have in Connecticut anymore. But again, he's the age of 62. He served in the Navy for 25 years. I'm sorry, the Air Force for 25 years. And he says now all his rights have been taken away. He's been a Connecticut resident his whole entire life. He's looking at retiring and leaving Connecticut to go to Texas to get away from what he was his love. And he has two types of shooting. He's a photographer and he's an avid gun collector. And so he shared with me how he hates Connecticut government because of what's happened. And he said, yes, we used Sandy Hook as an example. He used another situation that happened there as an example. And he says, yes, it did happen. Unfortunately, how did it happen? Who got that gun? And and again, that's all on the state level. That's their decisions to make those laws and to protect the cities and towns of Rhode Island. This again is just saying that we support the Second Amendment, that we support. We don't want to change any laws here. We don't want to disable our police department or anybody. So that's all this is saying, and I'm kind of in support of it, but I don't know.
All it is just affirming notes, that's all it is.
I will tell you that I don't agree with naming us a sanctuary city. I agree in supporting the Second Amendment.
That's the second one, right?
That's the second one.
I don't know.
I like Dave. I don't own a gun. I've never fired a gun. I don't have a desire to, just not my thing. But I believe, like in most cases, that abusers are the cause of the problem. It's never like that. In anything you talk about, it's not the responsible people that that cause things. It's when somebody abuses the system or takes matters into their own hands, whatever you call it, everybody has to pay for it. And I think if you took guns away, then those that want to get a gun will go and get a gun.
Yep.
It's that simple. I want to make sure that our law enforcement agency is not affected. But I do believe in the Second Amendment in the Constitution, and I don't want to take that away from anybody. I don't think that would be right. So in this particular instance, I agree with Councilwoman Williamson to support the Second Amendment, but at this point not being a sanctuary town.
And I would agree with both. I do believe in the Second Amendment. I have fired guns in the past. I enjoy firing guns. You know, somebody mentioned something about other countries where, you know, they've taken guns away. I can hark back to 1933 when, you know, before the Third Reich, there was a registration of weapons. And, you know, we never as a country want to be in that type of situation where guns are being taken away from us, because that's what the Second Amendment allows for us to protect ourselves. But I just, again, going back to the idea of the language of sanctuary city, I just don't know what it fully encompasses. So in my opinion, I would vote that we move to the first resolution. We go to the first resolution.
Move it.
That's
Move it. Well, it's already been moved, we're on G.
Yeah, so can I ask, Dave, you said you talked to our representatives and can you give us some feedback there?
Representative Norre is in support of the Second Amendment. He actually told me he was going to reach out to you and the rest of the council if he had a chance to this weekend. Representative Jackson said he'll review both resolutions and get back to me. That was early this morning. He has not, Representative Serpa has not responded at all. Mr. Satchel, he has mixed emotions. He's definitely in support of the Second Amendment, but he's not for a sanctuary city. So, and that's being kind of. But that's where our 4 legislators in the State House stand, and I think I can honestly speak for them is what they said to me. It's because some of it's in writing. And I did meet Mr. Norre face to face because he gave me a Rhode Island state flag for the 9-year-old All-Star team. So we talked face to face with him. And that's where I stood. And like I said, I do have an email from Chief Knott. If he does want to come up and speak on it, he can if he'd like. I don't want to put him on the spot. But
I think you just did. So Chief Knott, what do you say?
Seen the spotlight? It's getting warm.
Again, like I said, I sent the council president an email. I'm a 25-year law enforcement officer, spent almost exactly half my life now as a sworn law enforcement officer protecting the Constitution and protecting people's rights. So I am obviously a supporter of the Constitution. It kind of guides my daily activities. The 2 concerns that I shared with the council president were, first, the language of law enforcement using sound discretion and how that's interpreted by our citizens, not on either side or whatever. Just the police department, the use of discretion is vital in our job. It's the way things function and function smoothly, allowing officers to use discretion on what we consider minor crimes and education on how we can get people to do the right thing. When it comes to serious crimes, discretion diminishes and law enforcement officers are expected to do what they need to do. In this particular case, gun laws passed by the state legislature, I don't expect my officers to use discretion. If there's a violation, I expect them to follow through to the fullest extent of the law. My point being was that the forum for debate on firearms legislation is with our state legislators on state Capitol Hill, and that's the forum for the debate on both sides in either way, and they're charged with coming up with a final decision. Once the law is passed, I expect my officers to follow the law, and the next forum for debate when a law is challenged on constitutional things or defense counsel is the state's court system or the federal court system debate, depending on where that goes. So the forums for the debate are those 2 entities outside of law enforcement on either end of the spectrum. I expect my people to do their jobs. The second point that I wanted to make was an initiative that I'm taking on behalf of the police department this year and next year is to enhance the efficiency and safety and security of our evidence storage. General evidence, drug evidence, firearm evidence, and also the safety and security of our department-owned firearms and SWAT team firearms. I intend on spending money out of this year's budget to do that. And then whatever is left of that initiative, I intend on working towards capital expenditure proposal for fiscal year 21. So I wanted to bring that up to his attention now that that's part of the initiative I have. It has nothing to do with any laws that are passed or whatever mandates come down. Because right now I don't have the space for it. I don't feel comfortable dealing with what we have on hand, which is why that's an important initiative to me to make that more efficient and more secure as it stands on a general operating basis.
Thank you, Chief.
So, I'm sorry. Yeah. So is there language in either of these that you would like to see modified a bit before you were 100% comfortable?
As far as the language goes, I have no objection to any of it. I shared my support that mirrored what you all had said. You know, my personal preference is the first one that says you support the Second Amendment, as opposed to sanctuary city verbiage that, in my opinion, you know, and this is only my opinion, as a citizen and a person, not as the head of a law enforcement agency, is that I'm used to being Switzerland and mediating issues. Sanctuary city sort of goes to an impression of extremism, and I don't like going to the extremes. I prefer the middle of the road, mediating and working things out.
So the language that says West Warwick Police Department exercise sound discretion when enforcing laws impacting the rights of citizens under the Second Amendment, you're comfortable with that?
With the understanding that
You're going to do
our discretion is we're following the
law. As it
law.
gets more serious, you have less discretion. And then actually the last part of it talks about West Warwick Town Council will not appropriate funds for capital construction of building space, purchase or storage systems of storage weapons seized pursuant to requirements set forth in any legislation. I mean, that's that's a little scary to actually put that in.
That, again, it would be an opinion of this council, not an ordinance, so future councils could change their mind, but you really can't allow for any type of future spending on whether you might need storage because you decide to have 400 police officers. So
it does say seize pursuant to the requirements set forth in any legislation, but not knowing what that is, I think that's a rather broad.
Right, which is why I highlighted the fact that I have intentions to work on some initiatives now in next fiscal year outside of anything the state decides to do.
So I think we have to be cognizant of what that says. You know, if the state laws does change and Chief Knott wants to do something, this says we...
Still a resolution, still that, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but if we're saying we're not going to do it.
But again, a resolution is not binding by, has no statutory authority. It's not even an ordinance. So it's not a law even at the municipal level. It's just like I said, a codified opinion of this council. And then opinions can change.
And if he's already doing it, and they pass a law, we're not going to actually, we might not approve it in our budget anyway, to say that he's already done it, and he already beat the system, per se.
Even if something should happen in the future, your hands are not tied about providing storage space for weapons with the police department.
I just want to make sure people understand that, and don't come before us next budget season because Chief Knott wants to build something, or has to build something.
I guarantee you're going to have defense counsel use this resolution in any gun case the town of West Warwick's involved in, if they can. So I mean, anything that's always reduced to writing can be used to the fullest extent possible. Doesn't mean it's going to go anywhere, but people will attempt to use it, and they'll interpret it their own way as time goes by.
So I guess I would ask the group that how important is that the budget piece in that? That really doesn't have to do with the Second Amendment and supporting the Second Amendment. So I guess that's a question that I have as a council person.
I guess since I spoke about the budget earlier, I shouldn't speak about this. So what I feel about this is basically, first off, Chief Knott has already said he has it in the plan, so it has nothing to do with future legislation. He's already planning on doing this over the next 2 years. So it wouldn't apply in his case, in our case. But additionally, I kind of thought while I was sitting down and I just kind of blanked out when I got up here, but.
I do that all the time.
Yeah, me too. Yes.
So yeah, it's already planned out that he wants to do something over the next couple of years, so it's not related to that. Which should eliminate that completely, that argument. Because it was announced publicly in a public forum that the plan's already in place to do this. And it only states that it's not to allocate money for something based on a future law. Not something based on no funding ever to expand the police department or the storage facilities. So as long as there's a reason for it that isn't coming from an unfunded mandate that I spoke about earlier, then there should be no problem with this. And again, all we're doing today is saying this is how we feel right now, and this is a message to the state saying we don't like your unfunded mandates. Stop telling us that we have to spend money that you're not going to provide for us. That's basically what it comes down to. If the state wants to give us money to pay for those upgrades, we're not spending the money either. But it's the unfunded part of these mandates that is the problem. And that's why I like keeping that section in there.
And I guess I'll go to a crazy extreme if something comes down that says, the state of Rhode Island says, all guns come off the street, and Chief Knott has to take all guns off the street. My guess is he's going to have to build something to collect them.
He's probably also going to have to hire a few more officers to do that.
I agree with you, but we've already determined you're going to do what state law says, right?
Yes.
Right.
So this.
It contradicts what state law may say, because it's speculative in nature and conjecture. If you're going to pass either G or H, it should be without that final paragraph as it relates to whether or not the council will allow the chief to apply for funding to build any additional space to store weapons seized by any future. I mean, you're talking very much now into the future as to what could occur, not what will happen.
Right.
So it's very difficult for them to allow, I mean, you take it to the next extreme, a group could come in here and say, if the state of Rhode Island fails to provide funding for state education purposes, that the town will not, nor will the town build any new schools. You could put that, you think it doesn't have any weight and has absolutely no authority. So this resolution, I mean, they're putting in a clause that will be attempted to be used against you in the future should something happen. This particular part of the resolution, this paragraph, could be addressed in a future time, if in fact there was bills before on the legislature that looked like they were going to be passed.
And you can always pass a resolution to void this section of the resolution as well.
I would be more comfortable not tying our hands, or the police chief got this part.
You could just omit that paragraph.
You can make a motion to omit that paragraph. If you would.
Which one are we on?
G.
G or H has a paragraph is the last paragraph.
Where are G both the same?
So G, and G is a non-sanctuary city hall.
Right.
So I would vote that, I would make a motion that we remove that paragraph regarding, well, actually, it's a little different.
It is.
Yeah, it's a little different. So both of them, both those last paragraphs are a little bit different now.
Yeah, the main part was the sanction. They are a little different. With the council.
Do you have a problem with G?
Well, that does, it's not just a paragraph
Right,
though.
the first part of the last paragraph on G is
Right.
not the same as the first part of the paragraph on H.
They're combined. So that paragraph that I read about West Warwick Town Council affirms its support for exercise of sound discretion is in that last paragraph. You don't want to take that out clearly. And then it talks about the
Well, I
funding.
understand you want to omit the last paragraph on the one that deals with Second Amendment.
No, you want to keep that. You want it to read, be further resolved that consistent with the policies of the town and its police department and the chain of command, the West Warwick Town Council affirms its support for the exercise of sound discretion in the enforcement of laws impacting the constitutional right of citizens under the Second Amendment, period. And everything else after that will be omitted.
what's on my page 3, where it says, be it further resolved, council, that comes out.
Well, no, half that stays in, half of it goes out.
Again.
After the word
Because in the other one, it's
amendment, after
two
the word
separate
amendment, there'd be a
paragraphs.
period, and then everything else.
And then everything after, and further affirm in its intention not to appropriate funds. So it would stop at Second Amendment with a period and remove those last couple of sentences.
Yeah.
And that's in the resolution that does not refer to sanctuaries.
As a sanctuary city, correct.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is, that paragraph that begins with it, be it further resolved, that's coming out.
No.
Not the whole paragraph, only half of it. Up to Second Amendment, under the Second Amendment, and then period, and then and further affirmed,
looking at the
further on.
Yeah, you're looking at the
Looking at
other one.
H.
You wanna look at this up?
The other one is two separate paragraphs out.
Okay, I got it.
Got it?
Yep.
So is that what you want to do? Make a motion?
I did make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, and all in favor to remove after Second Amendment, all the way to the end.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. We're still on the actual resolution. Any other comment on the resolution?
Way up. Good evening, Brandon Fampton at 4 Kenmore Street. Just a question. Been listening to the resolution, and when you say you're in support of the Second Amendment, just a blanket statement, I was like, what does that really mean though? In relation to what? Is it in relation to Supreme Court rulings, or who's interpreting your support and how you support it?
We're in support of this. I'll speak for myself. I'm in support of the Second Amendment as it stands today. You know, there are some drastic laws out there. I've seen other states, like I just used Connecticut as an example. And I would further support this group if some of those laws came into play. Because again, it's not the gun that, in my opinion, it's not the gun that does the evils. Okay? So if somebody has a specific gun today and somebody went out and shot somebody with that gun, why should the other 99% of the people in here be held accountable for something that somebody else did with that gun? They might have had that gun for 30 years and that person got that gun last week and did that action. You know, it's a tough situation. It's again, whatever the state laws are is what they are. And we have to abide by that. Our police department has to abide by that. But again, it's just telling the state that, hey, we're in support of the Second Amendment as it stands today.
I recommend adding language as to what the context of the Second Amendment that the town supports, instead of just being a blanket statement. I think I highly recommend that.
Well, there's definitely 2 pages of that.
Did you get a copy of that?
Yeah, I saw it. I just wanted to make sure.
Is there any merit in here? Or we have more to go?
Any other comment? That being said, I'll take a roll call vote. Jay?
For item G?
G. You're on G.
Yes.
As amended.
As amended.
As amended.
Jason?
Yes.
Mary Beth?
Yes.
Yes. And I vote yes. G passes.
So do we just, so H, do we
Take
delete?
no action on H
Take no
to be removed from the agenda for next time.
Thank you.
Thank
First standing ovation this council's ever gotten. Probably the last.